Welcome everyone, this is Tactical Lich here, and today we have a replay sent-in by Bowmore playing against Cptmorgan. Both of them are very well-known players in the community, highly skilled, also being regulars of tournaments. We can expect to see some high-quality gameplays today. Now for the army builds, we have the Dawi side played by Bowmore with a pretty classic box here. A front line of Longbeards with great weapons, chevron up from some leftover funds no doubt. On each flank an Ironbreaker unit to protect the flanks. At the back a Dwarf Warriors with great weapons to protect the rear, as well as a Slayer unit. For missile range power, we have Thunders, 3 of them actually, and an Alpha's Raiders, already a bit blunder in the deployment from Bowmore though, probably forgotten when he was deploying, but now they're rushing back to the safety of their brethren. As for Cptmorgan, we have a very wide infantry line for Chaos, a front line of 4 Marauders, no doubt there to absorb explosive charges, and at the back, the backbone of Chaos infantry, Chaos Warriors with great weapons, ready up to hack through the heavy armor of the Dawi with their heavy axes. Now, on each flank there are a couple Chaos Marauders there, probably will go for a flanking maneuver to get into the back lines. As for mobility, 2 Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes, 2 Chaos Chariots, and 2 Manticore in the skies, led by Sathrel, the Everwatcher, who is standing there with his spooky staff, no doubt has the blessings of Tinge on it. For spell kits, there's Searing Doom and Plague of Rust to debuff the Dawi armor. Now, for the Dawi forces, the Alpha's Raiders finally get into the middle of the formation there thanks to their stock. Nobody saw them being misplaced and they will just get into safety of the infantry. A Searing Doom placed onto the Thunders, but a pretty nice dodge from Bowmore there, dodging the worst of that bombardment. However, still some units getting caught there, although only HP damage, no models dead. The Marauder Horsemen straying way too close to the Thunders there, being unleashed upon a bunch of bullets. Well, you can see them just dropping like flies, already 9 models down. While the Chaos Marauders are clashing into the front line, into Ironbreakers and Longbeards with great weapons. No doubt with the heavy armor and just superior combat stats of these Dawi infantry will make short work of these guys, and no blasting charges needed. Very nice micro from Bowmore there, turn them off from fire at will, so they will not be unleashing the explosive charges onto the Chaos Chaff. Instead, they will be saving up for the actual threatening units, the Chaos Warriors with great weapons, who will be the main staying power of the Chaos army. Now at the back, one of the Marauder Horsemen is already routed from the missile pressure. A second unit is getting bombarded with bullets as well. There was a cast, I think, on the Thunders, but got cancelled for some reason. While in the front lines, you can see Sathrel has already taken a bunch of bullets in the face from all the Thunders. Blasting charges unleashed into the Chaos Warriors there, doing some pretty decent damage to them, even with the heavy armor of these guys. These Longbeards taking some damage already from the charge, and also the Chaos Marauders. They will be losing this engagement pretty heavily. A nice Searing Doom on these Alpha's Raiders, bombarding these lowly armored Rangers with great weapons, doing some pretty nice damage. Definitely a good target to focus down first. While in the front line, the blasting charges going into the Chaos Warriors, equalizing the odds between the Longbeards and the Chaos Warriors, but there's so much mobility going in to shut down these missile pressure to save Sathrel from all these bullets. Chaos Marauders with throwing axes are back to and unleashing the throwing axes into the Slayers, while the Manticores silencing the Thunders. One of them is still left opening fire onto the Chaos Warriors. However, the Chaos Chariots and the Manticore there shutting down the other one. Although all those Raiders, very nice heavy missile pressure there, shutting down the Chaos Feral Manticore, stripping away his HP down to already half health. A nice bombardment, the Searing Doom into the Thunders, dropping a few models here and there, and Sathrel charging in with his flappy wings. Now, Chaos Marauders with great weapons finally getting into combat, but they got intercepted by the Longbeards. While at the back line, Chaos Chariots are still running rampant around the back line, charging through any units as they are liking, as they do have heavy mass. However, the Chaos Feral Manticores are basically gone. Where's the second one? Yep, routed all the way over there, under all these Alpha's Raider throwing axes. Just amazing missile damage from these guys, especially when they are close range and using point blank fire. The burst damage is insane, bringing the pain to their foes. These Chaos Warriors would know, as they are subjected to the heavy armor-piercing fire from the throwing axes, and now coupled with some explosives to their back, they're really feeling the pain from the Dawi range power. Some tattered Longbeards are still holding back the Chaos Warriors here. These Longbeards have been fighting these Chaos Warriors for the whole damn time, even eating a charge in the face, but still managed to drag them down to 1/3 of their health. While the miners with blasting charges who have expanded their explosives to help out the Longbeards, delaying the advance of the Chaos Marauders and warriors with great weapons. A nice dodge of Searing Doom over here, only eating a bit of bombardment on the edge of the spell effect area. However, now they eat a charge from the Chaos Chariots. Floric here leading the army there with Rune of Slowness and Rune of Breaking. He was stuck in melee combat against some Chaos Warriors with great weapons, and now being charged by chariots, he's not enjoying his time right here. Now the Chaos Warriors are pushing into the back. However, Dwarf Warriors with great weapons here are here to delay the infantry, as the Ironbreakers ready to unleash another salvo of blasting charges, while the Others Raiders being protected by Bowmore's micro, constantly being pulled back while using the reserve infantry to block up advancing enemy units. Keeping these guys alive, still 39 models, will be very crucial in taking down all these single entity threats, especially the chariots, as the infantry, with mostly Ironbreakers left, will struggle to take down chariots with their lack of armor piercing and anti-large. For the rest of the Dawi infantry line, things are getting pretty bare bones. These Longbeards are getting surrounded by Marauders and Marauders with great weapons. Chaos Warriors pushing forward, charging straight into the healthy Ironbreakers, who have 2 chevrons and 69 melee defense. With only 36 attack on these tattered Chaos Warriors, they will not be able to punch through these Ironbreakers, as they are delaying the infantry attack, giving time for these recovered Thunders and Others Raiders to unleash fire into these Chaos Chariots. While this Chariots still have 3 models left, charging straight into the rear of these Longbeards, breaking them, freeing up all these Marauders, who are basically wavering, probably won't be hanging around for too long if they keep fighting the Longbeards. On the other side of the battlefield, Thunders, who came back from routing, actually unleashed some bullets into these Marauders with great weapons, now turning around to shoot at these Chaos Warriors. Massive losses for these already tattered Chaos Warriors, with bullets armor-piercing fire to the back. Fighting against superior infantry, they are wavering. They have no hope to win. Now, Chaos Pharaoh Manticore actually came back alongside with some Chaos Chariots, charging into Others Raiders, but got routed by the actually decent melee stats on these Others Raiders. Of course, the cover fire from the Thunders helped out as well. Now let's get an overview of the battlefield. Bowmore has pretty much secured all these Dawi infantry. There are still some Others Raiders available to fire into the chariots, and all that's left for Chaos are some very tattered Marauders, including these wavering Marauders who are being fired upon by some Thunders. A nice bombardment onto the Ironbreakers, however they do have heavy armor and mitigating part of the damage from the Searing Doom. And yeah, they're just so healthy that the Searing Doom isn't doing enough to turn the tables, as the throwing axes consistently throwing their fire into the Chaos Chariots, chipping away their little health that's left on each model. Chaos Chariots charging straight in, trying to break these Others Raiders, but a second line of Thunderers shooting into these Chariots, ripping them apart, and they will be routed. Same goes for these Pharaoh Manticore, who will soon be subjected to another hail of bullet. Now, Ironbreakers, just like an absolute rock among waves, the boulder that anchors the whole Dawi forces, beating back waves and waves of Marauders, Chaos Warriors, and yet still standing firm even after all that damage and punishing they took, breaking the toughest of Chaos Iron. Accompanying Floric Ironbrow, they will be shifting back into the middle, basically hold down these Chaos Chariots, who is hit by Rune of Slowness, being dragged down in melee combat by the pickaxes and now by the axes and shields of these Ironbreakers. Floric coming in as well, using his runic hammer to deliver a righteous blow of grudging against these Chaos Chariots. Another Searing Doom going down on these Ironbreakers there. The miscast damage is actually damaging Saphira as well. Floric's item doing some clutch damage. Although do keep in mind that Saphira has 25% magic resistance, that's 25% less damage from the miscast damage, so you can somehow still justify using magic around Floric with Saphira. However, I don't really see how Chaos will be able to pull this back, as there are still so many Ironbreakers, and Saphira, despite a very disruptive attacker, he is not an amazing melee unit overall. Yes, he can probably do some damage to these Iron Breakers,
but he doesn't do enough armor-piercing damage. He will need a lot of spell bombardments to break apart these sturdy Dawi infantry.
Without the assistance of the Chaos Chariots, Safarel is in a huge pickle, but can he actually finish off Thoric? If he actually finishes off Thoric, there might be a chance left. Overcast Plague of Rust is going down onto Thoric, lowering his armor to 60,
allowing the Everwatcher, who is not primarily armor-piercing, to do some clutch damage to the tanky Dawi Lord.
And Safarel beating down Thoric Ironbrow, trying to just basically finish him off in melee combat.
Now, when I first saw this engagement, when Safarel charging in and out of the Dawi's units going after Thoric, I thought it might be a bit of a cycle charging abuse, but when I looked into the fruit rules, which is the rules used on the Antiquity ladder, they allowed units to lock onto a single pursuing target and ignore any intercepting units. So the Ironbreakers here trying to intercept Safarel can actually be legally ignored in tournaments. And Safarel relentlessly hunting down Thoric Ironbrow, flaps his wings, shoves every single Ironbreaker aside to hunt for his target.
And you can see how disruptive Safarel's charges are, just ripping straight through all these heavy Ironbreakers, charging straight for Thoric Ironbrow. And Ironbrow, sturdy as he is terrified from the sheer presence of the Safarel the Everwatcher, and is fleeing for his life. And with the slow Ironbreakers not exactly the greatest pursuer among the Dawi roster, and the lack of missile fire as these Alpha Raider routing and out of ammo,
Thoric has nothing to save him from the gaze of the Everwatcher. The madness of siege terrifying his soul, forcing him to abandon his Dawi brethren. Safarel hot in pursuit,
charging forward with his disgusting staff,
wrapped in tendrils wriggling around. It's pretty much a KFC drumstick wrapped in squid tentacles. Despite the rune of slowness getting popped onto Safarel,
he will still be fast enough to basically leave these Ironbreakers behind to eat dust and chase after Thoric Ironbrow. Now let's fast forward a little bit as he takes some time to finish off Thoric, and now back to the melee engagement, going into the Ironbreakers, pursuing these routing units, trying to just smash them away, but now turning his attention to the healthier Ironbreakers, who still have 2,600 HP left and 67 defense. Safarel's 16 melee attack doesn't seem to be quite enough, especially given that he is not primarily armor piercing, and his magic attack does get reduced by the innate magic resistance of the Dawi. Now being surrounded by Ironbreakers, he is not enjoying his life as he is trying to yet again break these regrouping Ironbreakers who are wavering as they are now down to 700 health. Some miners with blasting charges came back, but Safarel, who is pushing his way through the Ironbreakers, are now breaking and shattering these miners, and will soon turn back his attention back to the Ironbreakers, who are standing still, bracing for the charge, but these are not exactly bracing, so not sure how the charge bonus is gonna work. But this is the last stand, surrounded by the heaviest of dwarf infantry. Can Safarel turn this around? If he actually gets a Searing Doom with a bombardment onto these Ironbreakers, he might actually turn this around, as the Ironbreakers right now are still fighting valiantly against Safarel, and if it's about pure melee grind, Safarel has no chance against these elite warriors of the Dawi. So this will be it, the final engagement. Safarel charging around, disrupting the Dawi formations. However, it seems like the Dawi isn't backing anytime soon, and the heavy armor and magic reduction reducing the damage coming in from Safarel, beating down these Ironbreakers, but the Ironbreakers stand tall. And yeah, surrounding Safarel, it is basically a matter of time for Safarel to go down, and there goes the big bird. The Dawi settles yet another grudge. Now that we're at the post-battle screen, I would like to say a big thanks to Bowmore for sending in this amazing replay. That was such a fun game to watch and such a close battle. I thought the Warriors of Chaos will be getting wiped during mid-game, but Cptmorgan somehow managed to pull back and make the battle much closer than I predicted. Just amazing gameplay from both ends of the battlefield, and the battle, as a result, is an absolute enjoyment to watch. Now for the army performances, Bowmore here has a really good micro on his Othos Raiders here, earning 1,580 value, even under the consistent mobility pressure from Cptmorgan's chariots, horsemen, and manticores. He was constantly in control of these raiders, constantly shifting them back, using the reserve infantry to block up pursuing troops, and in the end guaranteeing the survival of the raiders, allowing them to
expand their ammo, maximizing their value. However, the Thunders here got shut down pretty nicely, earning less than 600 value on each unit when they cost 700 each. You can really see the mobility pressure coming in from all the mobility from the Chaos. Cptmorgan did a really good job in disrupting these Thunderers. Yes, they came back and did some good damage to some of the Chaos Warriors, but overall, they didn't really earn back their value. For the infantry of the Dawi forces here, the blasting charges earned back quite some value, well over 500 value on one of the miners with blasting charges. The nice utilization of the blasting charges, conserving them until the Chaos Warriors engage, and only then dropping the explosives into the heavily armored elites of the Chaos Warriors. It is more demanding in terms of micro, but the lucrative value it got from the blasting charges is definitely worth it. However, for the Great Axe infantry for the Dawi, they didn't really earn back their value as they were up against some of the more annoying infantry to deal with, the Chaos Warriors with great weapons, decent stats, and morale. They will hold much longer and do more decent damage against the Longbeards, especially with the Chaos Chariots charging into the backs of these Longbeards. It is no surprise that they buckle a little bit sooner than the elite of the infantry. The Iron Breakers, 1,800 value, 151 kills, and 80 kills, 900 value on these ones. They absolutely carried the game, being the absolute anchor of the whole Dawi army, holding back tides and tides of Chaos Warriors with their superior melee defense stats and unbreakable morale. Not exactly unbreakable, but they might damn well be. Even under the bombardment of the Searing Dooms being charged by chariots, these elite warriors of the Dawi absolutely holds. They stand till the very end, to the last man standing, facing against the tide of terror brought by Safrael the Everwatcher. The Teen Terror does not face them the slightest bit. The Slayers, though, didn't really manage to earn back too much value, being shot by the throwing axes, being overwhelmed by heavy infantry as well. Their lack of armor piercing doesn't really cut into the Chaos Warriors' heavy armor. So that's pretty much it for the Dawi infantry. Thoric Ironbrow being hunted down by a bunch of armor-piercing infantry, including the Chaos Warriors, and Safrael didn't really earn back too much value. If he was on his Anvil of Doom, that might be a different story. However, without the extra physical resistance and magical resistance from the Anvil of Doom, he is rather squishy. Basically, just a more beefed up Rune Lord, and that's basically it. Now for the Chaos Warriors, Cptmorgan, the Chaos Marauders didn't really do too much as they were mostly there to absorb blasting charges, but they did not do so due to the nice micro from Bowmore, and instead they got wrecked on a bunch of Longbeards, crashing into a brick wall. It is pretty much expected they will not hold for long. The Marauders with great weapons doing a little bit better with their AP, but still not exactly the greatest performance. Chaos Warriors here also didn't really earn back too much value, being subjected to blasting charges, being shot in the back by some of the throwing axes and hail of bullets. The armor-piercing fire from the Dawi side really took a toll on these units. Now Chaos Chariots, really nice disruptive mobility units charging into the backs of the Thunders, ripping their way straight through some heavy armored Dawi infantry. They were able to shut down a lot of the missile pressure from the Dawi's end, just provide some decent mobility damage. Marauder Horsemen here, not a lot of good targets to shoot at as they were shut down pretty hard by the Thunders. However, they did got into melee against some Thunders, shutting their fire down for a bit. Although their squishy status means that they got routed pretty quick in this kind of melee combat, especially that they do not do armor-piercing damage in melee, meaning that they do minimal damage against the Thunders. Chaos Feral Manticore here didn't really do too much value. Their main role was to disrupt, charging into the Thunders. However, great crossfire coming in from Bowmore here using the Thunders and the Ophis Raiders with throwing axes, picking apart these Chaos Beastie with their accurate firepower. Now for Safrael the Everwatcher, almost 3,000 gold value. Absolutely amazing considering his damage are non-armor piercing and magic. The consistent bombardment of Searing Doom onto the Thunderer units and the disruptive charges of Safrael, and in the end, the one clutch Plague of Rust, debuffing the armor of Thoric Ironbrow, allowing him to snipe Thoric out with relative ease. Now that didn't really quite pull back the game, but it actually made the game much closer than it was, as Safrael, being an unbreakable unit, despite being the last man standing, was able to destroy Thoric in melee combat, putting a huge dent in leadership on the Ironbreakers, even routing one of them temporarily. If not for the relatively healthy Ironbreaker unit who was able to stand their ground against the charging Everwatcher, or the Dawi only has some inferior infantry like say the Dwarf Warriors and Miners left on the battlefield, Cptmorgan might very well have came back and clutched a win in this battle. However, Ironbreakers, an absolute brick wall to charge into, held themselves in melee combat and in the end dragged down Safrael, the Everwatcher, turning him into one dead chicken. And yeah, that's basically the end for army performances and the end for this battle replay. I hope you enjoy it. This is an absolute blast to watch. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe if you want to see more of this content. I will be uploading regularly videos about battle replays like this one, wild army builds you can make on multiplayer, and tips and strategies for multiplayer as well. If you have any replays that you want to showcase, feel free to drop by my Discord or send me an email with the replay file attached. I'll be sure to check it out. And yeah, that's basically it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.